History is full of things we're certain are true, until we bother to check. And sometimes the truth is so weird, you'd wish it was a lie. Today, we're busting more historical myths you've probably believed and dropping in some real events so strange you'll swear I made them up. We've done myth busting before, and you loved it, so let's do it again. History has plenty more whoppers to reveal. A rumor told enough times can turn into a fact. And some real events are so bizarre they sound like something a drunken screenwriter made up at 3 a.m. Let's jump in before history tries to rewrite itself again. Myth. Marie Antoinette didn't say, "Let them eat cake." We've all heard the story. Starving French peasants beg for bread, and their queen, Marie Antoinette, shrugs and says, "Let them eat cake," just before she lost her head. Except, well, she didn't. She did lose her head, but not over cake. The phrase appears in a book written when Marie was still a child, and the meaning of her words is partially lost in translation. Her statement probably referred to brioche, not frosted birthday cake. She got stuck with the line decades later because it fit revolutionary propaganda. Turns out her PR problem wasn't carbs versus refined sugars. It was being queen during a revolution, which is kind of like being a domesticated tom turkey just before Thanksgiving. Truth. 897 AD. Rome. Pope Formosus has been dead for months. His successor digs him up, dresses him in papal robes, and sets him on a throne, and then puts him on trial. The charges? Perjury and breaking church law. The verdict? Guilty, of course. The punishment? Cut off the 3 fingers he used for blessings and toss him in the Tiber River. It was pure political theater, but this actually happened. Just goes to show you're never too dead to be dragged through the mud or chucked in the river. We've got a full episode on this story. You'll want to check it out on An Ounce. Myth. Medieval people did know the earth was round. No, Columbus didn't prove the earth was round. Educated Europeans had known it for centuries, thanks to ancient Greek astronomy. The real argument was about how big the earth was. Columbus figured it was small, really small. And that's why he believed he could sail west to Asia easy peasy. But instead, he stumbled across an entire continent he had not expected and wasn't looking for. World history calls it a grand discovery. And don't get me started on how many found the New World before he did. But what he really did was get lost, and then insist he meant to be there the whole time. Yeah, turned out just like he planned it. Speaking of unintended destinations, here's a truth. The Defenestrations of Prague. Defenestration, a definition, the act of throwing someone out a window. It wasn't just an insult in historic Prague. It was, in fact, a somewhat reliable political strategy, which was used on more than one occasion. In 1419, 1483, and in 1618, major disputes in the city ended with powerful people being hurled out windows. Imagine if that happened in politics today. Every government building above the first floor would have safety glass and netting, and the concept of political fallout would be a lot more literal. Myth. Ben Franklin didn't discover electricity. Electricity was known for a long time before Ben Franklin. The ancient Greeks wrote about it. Heck, scientists in the 1700s were shocking frogs for fun. So no, Franklin's kite experiment didn't discover electricity. What it did was prove lightning is electrical. And yes, the experiment really happened, but not quite in the stand in a thunderstorm and wait to get fried way that kids' books show. He used a key to draw charge safely from the storm. In other words, Franklin wasn't reckless, just clever enough to make science look dangerous in the retelling. Truth. Operation Paul Bunyan. The Korean demilitarized zone. A poplar tree blocks the line of sight between checkpoints. South Korean and U.S. soldiers went into the DMZ to carefully trim the tree. The North Koreans didn't approve. 2 U.S. soldiers are killed. Days later, the U.S. responds with multiple chainsaws, 27 vehicles, hundreds of troops, attack helicopters, fighter jets, bombers, and an aircraft carrier. A show of force so over the top, it might be history's most dangerous landscaping job. And this time, trimming wasn't in the plan. The whole tree was reduced to firewood, and there was no interference, and no shots fired. You can learn more about that event on an ounce. Myth. Nero didn't fiddle while Rome burnt. The fiddle didn't exist in Nero's time, and according to some, he wasn't even in Rome when the fire started. Others say he returned and helped organize relief. Still others claim he was there, but just sat around singing poetry while watching the flames. But if you're trying to discredit a rival, saying bad poetry during fire just doesn't have the same ring as played the fiddle. Truth. Jeremy Bentham still attends meetings. Why is this remarkable? Philosopher Jeremy Bentham died in 1832, but his preserved body, dressed in his own clothes, still sits in a glass case at the University College London. On special occasions, they roll him into committee meetings. His real mummified head is stored separately for preservation, so now you know, being dead won't keep you out of court, and it won't keep you out of long, boring meetings either. Though officially marked present, Jeremy Bentham remains perpetually silent, and still no vote. Myth. The Great Wall of China is not visible from space. Astronauts can't see it with the naked eye from orbit. It's too narrow and blends in with the terrain. The myth started in print somewhere centuries ago and stuck. So no, with the naked eye you can't spot the Great Wall from orbit or from the moon. But hey, maybe you can see Texas. Truth. Medieval castle toilets weren't just holes in the ground. Many castles had garter rows, stone seats with chutes dropping waste into the moat or some pit. And some even had rudimentary water-based flushing systems. This thing progressed over the years, not in the technology of the medieval throne. Instead, in later centuries, the English court had a very sought-after position known as the Groom of the Stool, an official who assisted the king in the bathroom. And this individual held real political influence. Medieval people weren't living in filth, just in drafty bathrooms. And if you were king, you didn't even have to wipe. You had staff for that. What we know is often a mix of truth, propaganda, lazy storytelling, and lies, and sometimes the weirdest things really did happen. Remember, you can't see the Great Wall from space, but you can see history, getting it wrong over and over again. So here's the ounce. History doesn't just repeat itself. Sometimes it repeats the same wrong story for centuries. The only way to fix that is to keep asking questions. And that's it. An ounce, submitted for your consideration. Okay, so what's the weirdest fact you once believed? Until you found out it was less than true. Drop it in the comments. But before that, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still thinks Marie Antoinette was a carb snob. Thanks.